All right. What's going on, shifters? Welcome to Shift Sessions. I am Dr. Broderick Sawyer, your host for this week, aka Dr. B. Sometimes in Buddhist circles, the Bodhisattva. And that's a good one as well. But I'm glad that you're here. And I'm going to give people a few moments just to go ahead and join on in. Feel free to hit up the chat. Let us know where you are joining from. I'm excited to get started here. All right. Let folks get on in here. Grab some water. A big piece of mindfulness is learning patience. Okay. So we want to wait. Okay, and get reps up, so to speak, yeah. All right, see some folks joining on in here. Nice shout out to LA. I'm a big Laker fan, enormous Laker fan. More LA, okay. All right, let's do this. Okay, so it's a great time to take a pause, check in with ourselves, all right? Check in with ourselves. And so as we learn how to connect, right, with ourselves, we also build the ground to be able to work with others as well, right, and really connect, okay? And so today, what I'm really going to be doing is sharing with you my model of applied liberation psychology. Applied liberation psychology. A few things about ALP. The application of liberation psychology, okay? It means that we are acting from a place of liberation, okay? It's not theoretical. This is not affirmations, okay? It's not. It's action. It's taking empowered action. So today, what we're really going to do is go through the model, understand the model, and then we'll do some inward practices. So you're going to get a couple of meditation exercises here, which are really designed to help you understand how do I really relate to myself, relate to my nervous system, okay? And then what we want to do is make sure that whatever it is that we find when we observe ourselves, right? Whatever we find when we actually sit down and observe, we then take that and then we put it into action. Action is really key here. It's all about action, okay? It's active, okay? And no one's really going to come and save you, okay? No one's gonna practice liberation for you. You have to do it. And people don't like this part. People really don't like this part. And I think for me, I grew up an athlete, So I completely embarrassed myself in my middle school basketball team, right? And I decided for myself, I was like, all right, I'm going to go in the backyard and I'm going to try to become the best basketball player that I could possibly be. I took it upon myself. And then who is it that reaps the fruits, right, of our labor when we work on ourselves, right? It's us. Okay, it's us. So you can't really wait around for people to help you liberate you, or for you to empower you. You have to do that work, okay? And I see this a lot sometimes with my clients, shout out to all my clients. They are looking for me to come in and save them in one way or another. But one of the big things that I help them do is tune into their own sense of empowerment, okay? And so if you're interested in learning much more about the applied liberation psychology model, okay, and different exercises that you can really use, check out my website, brodericksawyer.com. There is a literally free, no sign up, no shit, nothing like that, right? You click it and you download it, and there's a PDF where you can practice applied liberation psychology at home, okay? So now let's get into this model, okay? And really, what are we working with, right? So ALP, Applied Liberation Psych, okay, is a model that I personally created, okay, that takes really old, about 1,000-year-old, 2,000, 3,000-year-old Buddhist methods, of penetrating your own energy system, your own system of energy. My favorite notions, right, are really truths. Talk therapy in the West, it only heals at the level of the mind, okay? It doesn't heal at the level of energy. Now, if you do enough talk therapy, energy, right, will start to come up, okay, naturally, it's emotion. However, if we want to better relate to and understand the energy in our own lives, okay, first we need to become our own source of validation, okay? If a tree falls in the forest and no one sees it, did it actually happen? Well, yeah, it happened to the tree. And frankly, that's the only that's the only person it matters to, right? So a lot of times when we are looking for external validation, right, that is a reflection of basic mistrust in ourselves. So, how do we learn to validate ourselves, right? We have to stop judging ourselves because nature created us the way that nature created us, okay? So nature wants you to be exactly as you are right now, right? The problems that you may encounter in your life, and including your suffering is a big part of it, is just you not allowing yourself to be the creation that nature created you to be. Okay? There's a caveat to this because there are systems of oppression which do not allow us to actually be our full selves. So there's a tightrope here. So hold on a second. I want to be free and liberated on the one hand and love myself and be exactly as Mother Nature created me. But then the other hand, I have to maybe live in a capitalistic society where I have all these responsibilities and there's a lot of stress nationally and globally, and I can't just say whatever I want whenever I want, right? So there's this tension here. And what ALP is designed to do, rather than say, okay, I have to grow my roots in this really crappy soil, instead, I'm going to pay attention. Where do I want to plant my roots, say, in my relationships? Okay? Do I want to plant my roots in relationships, romantic friendships, where people criticize me? Where people are like my frenemies? Do I want that? Do I want to plant my energy in relationships, in jobs, where I don't feel good? Where I don't like the people I'm around? So liberation, it's about a radical level of self-accountability. You get to choose where you plant your roots, relationally, even like you're down to your hobbies, right? But ultimately, what we want to do, okay, is start to tune into the energy, okay, of our environment. That's the first step, okay? Because if you can't escape prison unless you first know that you're in prison, right? So tuning into our own awareness can be done in a multitude of different ways. We have our mindfulness practice, okay? And mindfulness is just paying attention all the time. So just like right now you're paying attention to me, that's mindfulness. You're practicing. You can't be bad at it, right? That's it. You look and you pay attention and you attend. That's it. Mindfulness practice is not hard. It has gotten, I would say, commercialized, and it's making it into a bigger thing than it actually is, right? It is the primary tool, right? Or the medium from being trapped in a space where you don't know how to get out to being liberated. The thread in between that, right? It's attention. You need to practice attention. So with this in mind, as attention training, one of the bedrocks of ALP, let's practice together very briefly, okay, a way of opening up our nervous system. Okay, so I want you to imagine this, right? We're talking a lot about roots, okay, and where to plant our roots, right? But our nervous system has roots of its own, okay? So your nervous system, if you squeeze and hold your body like this, so you're sitting there right now, maybe you're on your phone, and you're like laying back, scrunched like this, or you're going like this, whatever. If you imagine a tree here, its roots have to be able to extend out to actually assess the soil, okay? So if you are hungry, if you're sleepy, if you're having an emotion, right? If you're having a deep thought, if you have subconscious stuff that you're trying to work through, if you have inner child work that you're doing, if you have shadow work that you're doing, whatever, right? The roots of your tree need to plant themselves inside of your body so that you can actually sense what the hell is going on in there, okay? And so just like roots in a tree that are like squeezed, can't really get at nutrients, it's the same sort of thing within your body. And so nervous system dysregulation is not just about being upset. It is not having your entire system helping you regulate the energy. Because if I just sit there and try to think through my problems, right, and I don't allow the energy to move to my nervous system, it's like using one part of a battery to manage a really big charge. Hopefully this is making sense to folks here. So as we open up to the body, we're actually trying to distribute stress evenly, okay? So let's do this real quick. Right, this will be our first exercise. What we're gonna do here, you can either keep your eyes open, you can keep them closed if you would like. And all you're gonna do here is start to take very, very deep in-breaths and very deep out-breaths. And each time you breathe in, I want you to take in more air, really fill your inner space with air. And then as you breathe out, really empty all the way. And with each out breath, what I want you to do is try to relax any tension in your body. So every time you breathe out, try to loosen maybe tension in your shoulders or your jaw. So with each and every breath, you are trying to unclench the insides of your body. There is such a thing as outer oppression, meaning systems, meaning prejudice, stereotypes, all of this stuff. But then there is inward oppression. Inward oppression is not allowing your body to feel at peace. It's subtly squeezing your nervous system, the thing that keeps you alive, the thing that helps you regulate and takes care of you. You need to be kind to your insides here. And with every breath, we are giving our body compassion. More air into our bodies means more oxygen for the blood. It's nourishment. When you relax your body, you're actually removing cortisol from your bloodstream. Cortisol is the stress hormone. And here now, opening the eyes, if your eyes were closed, you can feel free to drop anything you're feeling in the chat if you would like. And ultimately here, you can't be liberated until you are operating from a place of empowerment, not fear. Okay? You can consciously feel very empowered, okay, in your mind, but then be very afraid in your body. Okay? And this is the first real layer of ALP, of Applied Liberation Psych. This is the first layer. We can't do anything, okay, until we are not moving from a place of fear. Okay? Because if you're moving from a place of fear, right, especially think on a soul level, on a spiritual level, right, contraction is death, expansion is life. Okay? Fear is a contracting sort of thing. It's contracting. Liberation is open, it's expansive, right? Even if you're maybe in a situation where you feel like, I am maybe in a really hard relationship situation, or maybe I'm in a job where I'm being oppressed, or maybe I'm in a community where I'm being oppressed. It's really hard for me to contact myself or even know what's up. When you sit down and you breathe and you slow your body down, you're allowed to feel safe and expansive inside of your own body, okay? That's the first layer. That's the first layer. ALP is, we're not waiting, okay, for the outside world to change. We're not waiting on systemic liberation to start practicing liberation. Okay? One of the first things that you can do is liberate your nervous system from squeeze and from tension. And that's something you can practice each and every day. Okay? And step 2 with this. And you can either follow along if you want at home, get out a pen and pad. You can even type this into your notes, but this is a part of the ALP workbook. Okay? So, we have the meditation aspect, okay, of opening to the nervous system. But that's tricky, because think about it, right? You may have just did that meditation, you're like, I feel relaxed, right? But then you go into your everyday life, right? And then your everyday life is stressful, so then you're closing and you're staying closed. Because why? Your roots are planted in soil that you haven't really assessed yet. You haven't asked yourself, right? What energy is this situation causing? How is it causing me maybe anxiety or depression or whatnot? You can curate, you can custom tailor your environment as much as possible to regulate your nervous system. So if you're in a relationship with someone who is dysregulating to you, right, who makes you feel anxious, then you're going to feel anxious when you're with them. Okay? If you're with someone who makes you feel at peace, then you're with them, that's how you'll feel. Right? So you have the keys. This is not for the faint of heart. ALP is not that. Right? It's saying, I have the keys. I shall not cause myself more suffering than I have to. These systems are already a beast. They're already a beast. I ain't gonna worry about that. I'm gonna take care of me. I'm taking care of me. And here's the thing, the more you take care of you and the more regulated you are, the more you can serve other people, man. Right? It's more than just putting your mask on before you help someone else. It's liberating yourself and then walking around and acting in liberated ways. You can inspire like that. You make it possible because you're the model. You're doing it, right? It's not about comparison. It's not about comparison. You're becoming exactly as nature intended you to be. That's it. There is no standard of comparison. That's the whole thing. Trees, we don't go out into the forest, right, and then start looking at trees and be like, these trees look normal, and this one is disordered. It has a disorder. Why are its roots like that? That's weird. It's just, no. We don't say any of that, right? Every tree is unique, and it grows around obstructions. We don't look at roots and then say, oh, wow, ugly roots. No, there was a rock there, so it grew around it, right? So just like you may do things or have certain reactions or certain defense mechanisms from your childhood, those are beautiful too. And I didn't really learn about Buddhism, I'll say embody it, until I learned to have compassion for my ego, until I learned to have compassion for the things that I do to keep myself safe, And that's really it. And we can help manage ourselves. I know sometimes our defense mechanisms, right, especially if we have deeper things like trauma or whatnot, sometimes those defense mechanisms can really get in the way of our lives. But the key with ALP, though, is to learn about that defense mechanism. It wants to keep you safe. It sounds like it's on my team, Let's learn about ourselves. We want wholeness here. This is integration. Shamans call it soul retrieval, right? Trauma therapists call it removing fragmentation, addressing fragmentation. It's about wholeness, man. That's what this is. So let's do a bit of an exercise here, right? And this, again, you can pull out pen and pad if you would like, just a bit more reflective. So this is exercise 1 on the ALP workbook, brodericksawyer.com. So we'll just do this real quick together. We're doing well on time here. So essentially what you want to do, right, pull a pen and pad. What I want you to do is tune into and list the energy in your life that's nourishing you. Okay, what is nourishing? So I'll give you a few examples, right? A certain TV show, which is really nourishing to you. Okay, a certain tea that you really like to drink. Okay, a certain type of coffee, a certain person in your life. right? A certain type of food, right, that's really nourishing to you, okay? List those out, right? You can even think like time of day, okay? What time of day do you really like? It feels really nourishing to you, all right? Until here, this exercise, this is called the energy audit. The energy audit. We audit our energy, okay? So keep going with that. So what's nourishing you? I'll give you all a few minutes with that. An example from my own life. This is you want to know my strongest mental health pro tip, especially for depression? It's cold showers. Y'all aren't going to like that. You don't like that. But either way, cold showers is on my nourishing list. And I had to figure that out for myself, you know? And so it's personal. You get to choose whatever you really want. What nourishes, you know? And if cold showers are on there, great. For me, sometimes it's watching Seinfeld. I don't know why. For me, I feel at ease when I watch it. Doesn't matter what's going on, right? But I have to learn that, right? So try to fill that out a little bit. You keep going with this, right? You can check out the workbook. And now the second part of this exercise, right? Part 2. Now what I want you to do, you picked on now a few things that were nourishing. Now I want you to tune into things that are depleting your energy, okay? Think in energy. Don't think things, just think energy, okay? So what kind of food depletes you? It makes you feel like, ugh, you know? Right, so I'm heading into my 40s. I'm about 3 years away. Certain foods are starting to make me feel, ugh. I'm like, that's something new, right? So you may even think of relationships that deplete you, right? You may put small talk on there, right? Certain types of conversation, right? Think music, time of day, time of year. Right? What things cause your energy to sort of flatten and deplete? Sometimes with depletion, we can learn a lot about what not to do. Sometimes mental health is not about what to do. Sometimes it's about, all right, let me just not do that shit. You know what I mean? And that's that. Right? And then also, if you were writing on depletion, right? If you know that certain habits deplete you, you can also tune into the dosage. You see what I'm saying? So here, you can say, all right, if I eat mac and cheese, right, then I'll feel really depleted in my energy. But the next day, I'll actually feel really energized because I just ate some carbs, you know, especially if I had a tough week, right? So we can also see how things interplay. Certain things that may deplete our energy initially may lead to long-term sorts of benefits as well, right? So you can keep playing with that, but ultimately, it's in your hands. It's in your hands, right? So the trick with the energy audit, and I'll just do a little bit of explaining, and then we'll move more into another exercise. Okay, so I want you to really go ahead there and play with that energy audit. But the second part, okay, of ALP, okay, the second part of this is then you do the energy audit and you get a playbook essentially. All right, here are the things that nourish me. Here are the things that deplete me. Right. Then what you're going to do is you go to the behavior-based self-compassion worksheet, page 2. It's called that for a very specific reason, right? You are not giving yourself affirmations. This is not an affirmation thing. This is you identifying what behaviors, okay, that I can do. What behaviors do I need to do to communicate to myself that I love myself? That's simple. That's simple. Love is a verb. Compassion is a verb. Self-compassion is not just about affirmations. It's not just about being nice to yourself when things are hard. It's about being nice to yourself all the fucking time. That's what that is, right? Nature gave us these bodies. Nature gave us these. They take care of it. This is on loan, man. This is a loan, right? It's a loan, right? Take care of it. Love it. Right? And you don't have to feel love. You just have to act. That's it. You just have to act. And so the behavior-based self-compassion worksheet is exactly that. We're not thinking about anything, right? We're taking things that are nourishing, right? From our energy audit, and we're in the next week, right? That's what it says on the behavior-based self-compassion worksheet. It says in the next week, what are we gonna do? Get into it. It's action. It's action. It's applied liberation psychology for a reason. Right? The application of liberation in your own life. The more that you behave, take actions that communicate self-compassion to you, you will start to love yourself. You just will. It's very, very difficult, right, to treat yourself a certain way and then not feel that way. And for anybody who criticizes themselves, you tell me, when you criticize yourself, do you feel like shit? Probably. It's because it's what you're doing. It's the energy you put out. It's the energy that you receive. Yeah. So here, a lot of this is just reversing habitual feedback loops. Mental health, in a lot of ways, functions in momentum, right? So there are a couple things here. When you have momentum that you don't want, and you're criticizing yourself a lot, you're not feeling well, and you're not getting out of bed enough, you need to cut the momentum that's carrying you that way, right? That's the old don't make it worse mentality, right? Yeah. And now it's like stopping a car and like, okay, now I stopped it. Woo! Take a break. All right, and now we start to shove it the other way, right? Now we can start to create some momentum by taking out our energy out and saying, these things nourish me. I'm going to do these things in a row, right? Today, I'm going to try to create some momentum. And then guess what I'm going to do tomorrow morning? I'm going to try to create some more momentum. And then guess what else I'm going to do, right? Just like oppression functions on momentum, so does empowerment. Really. And so the name of the game is stacking days. It's stacking days, legit. Just stacking days where you look at your behavior-based self-compassion worksheet and you're like, yeah, I did that. That's right. Right? You start to develop an identity of someone who gets shit done. Someone who takes care of themselves. Right? And the beauty of this is you don't really need to feel things. Okay? You just need to do them. Emotions are information. Right? Emotion is just information. Right? So if you feel sad, right, it's your emotions reacting to your life situation. Right? That's it. Right? It's information. That's all. It's not you. It's just data. Okay? No different than when you touch your skin has a receptor and be like, oh, my hand feels something. Right? Same thing with fear, anger, all info. So if you have an internal experience that you don't like right now, right? If you're having an emotional reaction to something and you don't like, okay, let's identify. What is that? Right? So if I don't like my life and I feel sad, then like, okay, it's not that the sadness is a diagnosis, right? The sadness is information. Is all right, I need to change whatever it is that I'm sad about here. Let's get into action, right? So in a way, emotions are liberating in and of themselves. Right? I don't want to get too far into transmutation, but ultimately, ALP, it teaches you how to transmute your energy without using really heady, deep Buddhist language here. Okay, so I'm breaking the fourth wall a little bit by letting you know that, but ultimately, transmutation is much simpler than you think, right? Because it's not what you think. It's being moved by your emotional responses into action, So, let us, prior to moving on here, if there are any questions in the chat, any comments, anything at all, you feel free to put those in there, and we'll close down with a different sort of exercise here. So, shifting energy. Sometimes we need a model. Sometimes loving ourselves is a bit too threatening. Embracing deeper parts of ourselves. Very, very threatening, very, very intense. Okay. So this is a particular exercise that we can use, okay, to visualize, right, maybe a future self maybe even visualize a sort of sense of empowerment, right? And this particular practice is a deeper version of something I call the compassion avatar exercise, okay? And so ALP version 2.0 will have this particular exercise within it. You can join my mailing list for that. Just keep up with that. And it looks like we have, before we go into our closing exercise, so to close out here, we have a question. How many days of practice to show some sticking? Okay. So, essentially, this is quite variable, meaning that it's up to the individual person. But I will say it's dose dependent, okay? So meaning the more actions that you take, okay? The more actions that you take, the more you pay attention, right? The more you try to nourish yourself and not deplete yourself, okay? The faster it moves, right? So you'll start to see that it becomes almost like a muscle, a self-compassion muscle. The more action you take, it's just momentum, right? But here's the thing about momentum, and this is an important question, because once you start to push the self-compassion momentum and it's just moving, what this means is, before when you were like, and having to do that to get it started, once it's moving, all you need is a couple presses, and you got it, right? But that's dose dependent. It's dose dependent, man. The more that you act, the more that you practice, the better you get. And that's it. The more momentum that you can really create, okay? So essentially the sticking, right? It's almost like muscle memory. So I've been practicing mindfulness, 24/7, paying attention, Tibetan Buddhism, okay, for about 10 years now. So for me, my mind stays in the moment almost without trying. Sometimes it'll still get reactive or whatever. Sometimes it will happen. But for me, it doesn't feel like effort. It's just there. It's not a practice anymore, right? So everything is going to feel like effort until it's locked in. ALP is not really designed to worry as much about how you feel through the process. It's designed to be effective, is all that it's really designed to do. Okay. And I love that it puts all the onus on you. So if you want it to go faster, then you'll do more shit. You feel me? So, and I think that's liberation. That's liberation. You get to decide how fast you move and in what direction. It's great. Because not everybody's ready to just go completely in it, but it gives you a chance to, all right, let me feel this out, right? Because not everyone is in a situation or an environment where they can be completely open, liberated, and have access to things and all this stuff, right? So you just want to feel that out for yourself. But the energy audit is a great place to get started, and then just work week by week, month by month, right? But again, version 2.0, AOP version 2.0 will be out soon enough. Let me just get my shit together. But ultimately, that's going to be a little bit more decked out, okay? But you can certainly get started. BroderickSawyer.com for the workbook. But let's go ahead and get into a closing exercise here. Let's do this, and we'll take a couple questions and then end out. Okay. So this is the compassion avatar exercise. Okay, compassion avatar. So what I want you to do is begin to close the eyes and breathe. Start to slow down your rate of breath. So just like we did earlier in the session, breathing all the way in, all the way out. I'm trying to soften the body here. Just one or two more breaths. Then what I want you to do is allow your breath to resume at a natural rhythm. So no more deep breaths. Just allow your breath to breathe itself. Okay? And I want you to bring to mind someone in your life. This can be a person. This can be a pet. This can be a spiritual deity. but someone who is unconditionally compassionate and loving toward you. Just take a few moments and think of a person or a being. Again, pets work very well. I tend to use spiritual deities for myself, or different gurus or teachers. I've had one person use more athletic people. So one person liked to use Michael Jordan. I had one client once use Harry Styles, but whatever works, whatever works. Bring to mind that being who you feel so open and free with, and you feel as if they will always give you compassion. And to have this being in mind, I want you to imagine yourself sitting across from them. And as you visualize this, remember, the more detail, the better, but try to visualize what their body language and face looks like when they are appreciating you and loving you. What does their face look like? How do they express it? Maybe they are very verbal and say things to you to convey that you're lovable. Maybe they hold your hand or give you a hug to show you that you're lovable and that you're cared for. Whatever's personally meaningful to you, really visualize the detail here and try to feel and receive the care that you're being given. If it's helpful, you can also put your hand on your heart to really try to feel into that sensation of care. If there are particular visualizations that are impactful, try to use those. Meaning, if you're imagining your compassion avatar giving you a hug and that really feels meaningful and deep to you, keep visualizing that. Keep sitting with that. Next, what I want you to do is bring to mind something that you have been judging yourself for lately. So nothing too serious or too big, just something you've been holding against yourself. So maybe you made a mistake. Maybe there's a personality quality about yourself that you don't like. Okay, just bring that up. Just really conjure that up, and once you have it, I want you to imagine yourself sitting across from your compassion avatar and share this with them and imagine what they would say back to you. How would they show you compassion when you bring them something that you feel really embarrassed about? How might they comfort you? Really try to visualize this. What would they say in response? Would they give you a hug? Would they tell you that you're good enough? And it's okay? Try to breathe into this. Again, putting the hand on the heart can really help us pull the feeling of compassion into us. Just breathe for a bit here. Feel any emotions that are coming up, any shifts or changes in energy. Take a few more breaths here. Breathing into the heart space. When you're ready here, you can then open the eyes. In this particular visualization, remember this. You may struggle with self-criticism. You may sometimes struggle with shame. You may struggle with these things. But if you even felt a little bit of compassion for yourself in that visualization, and you have the instinct of self-love in you, right? Because that was a visualization. You just imagine someone else being nice to you. Right? You just made that up. That was you. That was you. Right? There's no need to project your own sense of love for yourself on other people. You have that. Own that. The desire to want peace. The desire to want to be free. To want to embrace. To allow. Right? Those are the keys, man. Those are the keys. And in particular, when we speak on oppression, right, and we'll start to close out here a bit, the more compassion I had for myself, the less I believed in microaggressions, racism, or really anything. Right? So if you learn to love yourself, mistreatment won't make any sense to you anymore. So these questions around, why do I keep doing that thing? Right? Why do I keep going into that relationship? Why do I keep putting up with this? Da, 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 da. You need a new reference point for what you think is okay. Because what happens in your life, a lot of times, is what you allow. Feel me? We're not waiting for systems to change before we start acting liberated. That's a cop-out. That's a cop-out. It's much harder to work with the kitchen sink level, right, of our situation. As my teacher's teacher would always say, okay, it's a kitchen sink level situation, right? The more direct that you live with your life, right, the more direct you are, the clearer you can see, right, and breathe into the desire to be loved, to be at peace. Okay? And then you get to create your own momentum. Right? And here, there's no such thing as motivation. Okay? There's only discipline. And there's no such thing as discipline. There's only clarity. Okay? When you are clear on who you are and what you want and what you don't want, all the actions, they happen naturally. Right? You never have to force yourself to do anything that's true. And it's just true. You just have to locate the space inside of yourself that is completely uncompromising with who you are and what you want, right, and what's real to you. And this is the journey. And then we keep going. We keep going. We keep using our energy out. We keep paying attention. Right? We learn every single day. You don't have to have it all figured out. Right? When you're on your deathbed, maybe you can say, I think I've learned a few things, But until then, right, let's just keep learning. However, I hope that this was great and restorative for anybody out there. If you have any questions, comments, things, you can throw those in the chat as we go off on the outro. We're going to spend a little bit of time just making sure that questions are getting answered. But in terms of where to find me, you can find me at brodericksawyer.com. That's where all my resources are. If you're interested in therapy services, if you are a therapist and you want to be coached by me, I also have services in that way. Speaking events, things like that, media inquiries, all brodericksawyer.com, as well as on Instagram at Dr. Brod. 123. I'm less active on Instagram. However, I'm gonna start getting started, especially as AOP version 2 comes out. If you're interested in joining my mailing list as well, you can of course go to my website, and that way you can get updates and things like that. But let's see. It seems as if we don't have any more questions or anything. So I appreciate you all. Thank you for spending the time, and stay liberated.